finally got it in time.
But you know, the thing about it, Dad, is that you always encouraged me to adventure, to doing the edgy stuff, to taking risks. You never really tried to protect me from the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. In fact, you pushed me into them sometimes. But was that deliberate? That was just the nature of how you were raised.
I pushed you far beyond what I experienced myself, which is not really very smart. See, in one instance, when we came back through Bemidji, and we made that Minnesota, we made that trip many times. I happened to have $3.50, and that was really the price of having you and Murray taken up in a small plane.
I remember it well.
And I dare not mention this to your mother because it would never have happened. No. I felt condemned, to tell you the truth. I'll go that far, but I thought, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And so you two boys went up for $3.50. I said, after you come back down, did you have a seat? You said, oh no, we sat on the floor.
We sat on the floor. And you know what? It was smelly and it was shaky, and the plane hardly made it off the water. And but we
it was overloaded, I think.
But we were so thrilled. I mean, my first ever air flight. And you know, it's a bit of an irony because these days I spend my life on airplanes. You know, I'm just flying all the time. But when we came back, Mom looked a little white.
She was upset.
She was ticked. She thought that you had acted irresponsibly in putting us up on this shaky plane that was sure to crash. But we got back.
Yes, and I thank God when you come back. I must admit that. I said, the thing is back and they're safe. But that's one of the few times that your mother was almost angry.
Well, almost.
She thought, how irresponsible can you be? Yeah. Put those boys up there, what if they hadn't come back?
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is, at that point, Mom would only have been 24 years of age.
Oh, yeah, she was young.
Yeah. I was born when she was 19. You have an interesting love story. You had come to Sudbury, Ontario. You were working in the mines. Your father had raised you on the prairies as you were a pastor's kid.
All of that.
You meet this Shirley Cody gal who was, I mean, she could have been a movie star.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, still beautiful.
Have you noticed that Cantelons have an eye for a beautiful woman?
I don't know whether that's good or bad.
No, it's good. It's because we marry them. You know, we marry them. You know, every Cantelon male I know has got a really good-looking wife.
Yeah. Must be God. I think.
As my kids, your grandson. I'm just saying. Where were we? Oh yes. So anyway, you're there in Sudbury. You see this beautiful girl, and you begin to get to know her. But then the Second World War comes along, and you are pressed into the army. And when you left for overseas, you shook my mother's hand.
I'd better tell that.
That was a little strange.
Embarrassing.
Are you embarrassed about that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like a nut.
Yeah. Well.
But anyway, it just happened almost the way you said it. The young people from the church, Sudbury Church, came down to see me off. I'm going overseas. I didn't know for how long. It turned out to be over 2 years. And as the young people stood around, I knew very well that they were waiting for the final move, whatever that it was. Yes. And I couldn't bring myself to kiss her.
Was it because people were watching?
Too embarrassing.
Oh, okay.
And I had privately kissed her on occasion.
You had?
Oh, yes, I had before.
This is a revelation. I didn't know that.
No. Without the people
I thought you didn't kiss Mom until the day you married her. I'm shocked.
Well, anyway, there were a few occasions. But on this occasion, I couldn't do it. I said, I can't make these people all happy. So I shook her hand. And was gone for over 2 years. Oh, now, if that isn't the dumbest thing that a guy ever did.
That was pretty dumb.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
You were a great dad. You still are. One of my endearing memories of you is when Murray, my brother, and I were very young. Murray's a year younger than me. Before Connie, our sister, was born. Used to come in pretty much every night when we were going to sleep, and you would tell us Bible stories. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes you would lie on the bed and stick your legs up in the air.
Yep.
Now you were fully clothed and in your right mind.
Yeah, right.
But I would climb one leg, and Murray would climb the other leg, and you would kind of swing us around in the air on your legs while you were telling us these Bible stories. And you know, the interesting thing is, when I finally went to Bible college, I discovered that my range of Bible knowledge
He knew everything.
was far greater than any of the other students. And it wasn't because I was such a great Bible reader, it's because you had told me stories for 10, 12 years of my life. I mean, you continued telling us stories till we were maybe too old to be sitting there and listening. But this was a terrific bonding as well as a great education you provided. And it was fun.
Your selection for these Bible stories was very, very short. I would say long story or short story, talking about the legs in the air and so on. It's always long story.
Long story.
But on this one particular occasion, we often had people stay with us, which is a big mistake. We didn't have either food nor beds.
Right.
But they stayed with us anyway. So on this occasion, we had people come in, and we had to route you out of your bed to make room for one of these missionaries.
Oh, yes.
And unfortunately, we put you into one of the rooms with a lousy springs hung together by coat hangers.
That's right.
And when I plunked you down, but you were asleep pretty well at the time, which is a credit to you.
Yeah.
And when you hit those springs and bounced, you said, "I'm not staying here." So you jumped up and took off and went back where you were. I didn't have the heart to bring you back.
Yes, you put the missionary on the bad springs.
Put the missionary in the bad springs.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did that, Dad.
Well, I had to, be
You know, I
kind.
still remember that.
You do?
I do remember that very clearly.
It happened just exactly like that.
Very clearly.
Your mom and I had to laugh,
Yeah. You know, I often recall you sitting down with me when I was very young, 3, 4 years of age, and asking me what I thought of stuff. And I just, so I would tell you what I thought. And I just grew up to this point, even in my life now, thinking my opinion matters. Because if it
Bully for you.
Well, if it matters, to your 6'2", 200 and whatever pound father, it must matter to the world, right? and this is a powerful thing, this acceptance, this affirmation that comes from a dad in a kid's life is huge. I mean, and you were giving me what your father had given you, and we've only got about 2 minutes left. There's so much more that we could talk about, but just very quickly, going back to your father, you were in Fort Francis, Ontario, and he felt, this was during the Depression, I think, right?
Yep.
The Great Depression. He felt the Lord leading him to Ceylon, Saskatchewan to plant a church. Now, we got about a minute left, Dad.
Yep.
You helped him convert, was it a barn or a livery stable, into a church?
He got it for $500. How he paid for it, I'll never know.
Yeah.
But I hope he did.
He may still owe for that.
But right on the main street, and he turned the auditorium or the upstairs, the hayloft, into a meeting place, and we lived down below. And in the winter, it was murder. Yeah. The wind used to blow right clean through, and we just about froze to death. But we had services upstairs in the summertime.
And he started holding services in a nearby town, Pangman, Saskatchewan.
That's right.
That's where he led a little 11-year-old kid to Christ whose name was John Musley White.
That's right.
Who has been on this program many times, who's an associate evangelist with Billy Graham.
We remember the whole family.
Yeah, and for 50 years plus has been writing Billy's sermons. And I don't know if Grandpa really felt he succeeded there.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he kind of left with his tail between his legs, figured he failed. As it turns out, he led the sermon writer for the greatest evangelist of the 20th century to the Lord. No failure. Thanks for coming our way, Dad. Happy Father's Day.
What a privilege.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Bless you.
Boy, that's a good handshake. Can you still deadlift 400 pounds?
Well, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 87.
I'm happy to be able to walk, too.